Highly sensitive people are particularly sensitive to energy leeching. And the term emotional vampire is rather dramatic, but just for the sake of this video, let's go with that analogy. So you'll notice this dynamic occurring when you're in a conversation or you're in a relationship or any sort of interaction with a particular person, and you notice yourself feeling a little bit more irritable and agitated for no apparent reason. You start to sense a feeling of fatigue, of heaviness. Your mood might drop suddenly. You might notice a feeling of tension in your body, and before you know it, you start feeling constricted, suffocated, and like you want to get away because you feel apprehensive for no apparent reason. These kind of relationships create a lot of anxiety. And another point to be conscious of is that no matter how brief your interaction with this person, they will walk away feeling better, whereas you will walk away feeling worse. For those of us who are highly sensitive, these interactions on a continual basis will make us doubt our intuition, and it'll very subtly eat away at our sense of inner peace and our self-worth. Have you noticed that we are particularly sensitive to these sort of interactions and relationships when we're at our lowest point? When we're fearful, when we're doubtful, when we're skeptical, when we're feeling really vulnerable. I believe that the most empowering point for us is to clearly identify it for what it is. Because if we can identify that this doesn't somehow resonate as truth for us, we'll be able to more clearly assert ourselves, set boundaries, and either limit contact with this person or completely cut ties with them. And I hear this really often. Why do we keep attracting these interactions, these kind of relationships? And when you stop to consider the way in which you question that, you're actually putting yourself in victim mode. Why is this happening to me? Too many of us highly sensitive people actually wait until we develop a physical illness that is screaming out to us, something's not quite right here. And that is because we have been leeching energy for a really long time. The moment you feel drained, fatigued after an interaction, that's an indicator. Loving interactions and communication should be clear, where you don't walk away feeling confused or wondering what just happened. Emotional vampires, they will never give you closure, and that's the name of the game. Realize that by not giving you closure about what just happened, you will forever be leeching energy. So one of the most empowering realizations for us is to give ourselves closure. Make a decision. Don't wait for the circumstances to change, because they never will. You have to love yourself enough to have firmer boundaries. And another thing that we don't realize is that we often get caught up in the struggle, in the drama, in the questioning, and in the trying to reason and understand how this makes no sense to us. And it's a game. And this energetic game is a form of toxic enmeshment, which drains us even further. We need to first set an internal boundaries in our own mind and in our own energy field of how much further are we willing to think about it, analyze it, and then put in place some practical boundaries, such as limiting contact, changing the conversation, or leaving the room. And these practical steps basically exemplify to the other person that they've hit our boundary, that they've overstepped a limit. Eventually, when we get clear and assertive enough about what we will and won't tolerate, these kind of interactions with energetic vampires will just no longer be of any use to us, no longer be relevant. And so there'll be no need for you to keep attracting and perpetuating the same cycle, because you would have learnt the lesson. You'll also observe that you tend to attract these kind of relationships and interactions when you are somehow giving off the feeling of guilt and shame and low self-worth and vulnerability and uncertainty. And so those personalities who feed off that, they often manipulate us because we are in that lowered vibration. And this is how we give away our power to emotional vampires, and we continue to feel drained. The most powerful realization is that you are not a victim. So notice when you are allowing yourself to be victimized in any way, you always get to choose. Even though the illusion there may be no options available to you, not choosing is still choosing. You've just decided that you're not going to decide, and you've decided that things are going to remain the same. And when you realize all of this, the game will end. So in a positive light, the games that we play and we often attract with these energetic vampires are only sent to us because they are showing us areas in which we are still vulnerable. They are also showing us that we may have some work to do in the area of boundaries, self-respect, and self-worth. So if this is a frustrating pattern that you keep repeating, ask yourself, how can this help me grow? What can I learn from this? What am I afraid of? And is it perhaps an opportunity for me to assert myself and love myself enough to set firmer boundaries? And just remember, once you set a boundary and the other person doesn't respect your boundary, that is no longer your problem. In loving interactions and relationships, each person's boundaries are respected, and so are their preferences. It's a negotiation. It is never a one-way street. Let's be really clear here. Love doesn't mean that we put up with someone's destructive behavior towards us. A behavior that leaves us confused and doubtful about our own value